The Deadly Escape, A Dangerous Criminal's Breakout from an American Prison, Part 3. The chase begins. As dawn broke over the barren hills surrounding the prison, the warden paced nervously in his office, knowing the magnitude of what had just occurred. The escape of Mark, the Phantom Donovan, a notorious criminal who had eluded capture for years, was no ordinary breakout. His careful planning had ensured that he left no trace, no clues, no signs of struggle. He had vanished into the early morning fog, leaving chaos in his wake. Inside the prison, the guards were still in disarray. The alarm had sounded too late. By the time they made it to the breakout point, Donovan was long gone. Surveillance footage was inconclusive, the security systems mysteriously tampered with, as if someone had anticipated the prison's every move. Donovan's escape was not just an act of desperation, it was a meticulously executed plan, one that had been years in the making. With an uncanny ability to blend into his surroundings, he had planned for this moment since his first day behind bars. He knew the guards' routines, the blind spots in the surveillance systems, and, most importantly, he understood the terrain outside the prison walls. As the search parties scoured the nearby forests and mountains, the authorities were scrambling to piece together how Donovan had managed to outwit them. But he wasn't an ordinary criminal. His mind was as dangerous as his actions, and he knew that staying hidden was his only chance of survival. The FBI, along with local law enforcement, formed a task force, codenamed Operation Phantom, dedicated to tracking him down. But Donovan was already ahead of them. Using his extensive criminal contacts, he was already on his way to a safe house miles away, where he would regroup and prepare for his next move. But the authorities were not far behind. In their pursuit, they had uncovered a vital clue, a coded message hidden in a cell wall, a piece of graffiti that Donovan had left as a signature of his escape. It was a calling card that no one had understood until now, a warning of what was to come. A shadow in the wind. The minutes turned to hours as the search for Mark Donovan intensified. The media caught wind of the escape, fueling the growing hysteria. News outlets splashed his name across every headline, and the public began to fear that the most dangerous criminal in the country was now free. For the FBI task force, every lead became a potential breakthrough, yet each one seemed to turn cold just as quickly as it had appeared. Donovan was a master of blending in, and by the time they reached the area he had last been seen, the trail was already fading. Meanwhile, Donovan was already executing the second part of his plan, seeking out old allies and making new ones. He had once been a well-known figure in the underground world of organized crime, and he knew that survival in the shadows meant having the right people in place. It didn't take long before he reconnected with an old associate, Clara Ramirez, who had since become an influential figure in the black market. She was more than willing to help him disappear entirely, offering him a network of safe houses, forgeries, and resources that would allow him to vanish from sight for good. But Donovan wasn't just running. He was planning. He needed to disappear, yes, but he also needed to settle a score with those who had put him behind bars in the first place. He had never forgotten the betrayal that had landed him in prison years earlier. He knew that he would need to strike fast and hard if he was going to ensure that no one would ever come after him again. The betrayal? While Donovan worked on securing his escape route, the FBI task force was starting to close in. They had begun to analyze his past, every crime, every move he'd made before his arrest. And they discovered a chilling pattern. Donovan wasn't simply a violent criminal, he was a calculated strategist. Every major crime he had been involved in had been orchestrated down to the smallest detail. It became clear that Donovan's next move was going to be as meticulously planned as his escape. And the most troubling part? The people in charge of his incarceration might have played a larger role in his escape than anyone had anticipated. The warden, initially seen as a hero for keeping the prison secure for so long, began to show signs of stress. Investigations into the prison's security systems revealed anomalies. A series of coded messages embedded in the prison's surveillance data that only someone with insider knowledge could have planted. It was becoming increasingly clear that someone had been working with Donovan from the inside. The task force, under increasing pressure, zeroed in on a particular group of high-ranking prison officials. Among them was former prison guard turned PR. With the task force closing in on Earl Whitaker, the walls of betrayal began to close around Donovan. Why,